Hi, I'm Maggie Stutz. I worked with Alaska Community Action on Toxics, or ACAT for short, which was based in Anchorage, Alaska. The main project ACAT worked on is a case where a United States military base built in the Cold War left the island Sivukok contaminated and caused people who lived there to get sick. There are 3 native villages on Sivukok: Gamble, Savunga, and Northeast Cape. In 1952, the U.S. Air Force established a base on the island. A decade later, a woman named Anialoa, a Yupik elder from Savunga, began to notice serious health problems among island residents. When the military vacated the Northeast Cape in the early 1970s, they left 34 contaminated sites. This contamination included spilt fuel, PCBs, and more that are known to cause cancer. Contaminants are especially harmful for people in this population on Savunga who rely on traditional diets, such as subsistence fishing and hunting of marine mammals. ACAT is a nonprofit organization that was founded by Pamela Miller in 1997. She partnered with Anialoa, who had been trying for 2 decades to get the military to clean up the toxic legacy on the island. ACAT's core values include the community right to know, environmental justice, and the elimination of the production and use of toxic chemicals, also the rights and sovereignty of Indigenous people. Pam started conducting community-based research in Sivukok, partnering with professors from Arizona State and other universities, and they take blood samples, conduct water, air, and fish sampling on the island and in Nome, which is on the mainland of Alaska on the coast of the Bering Sea. After studying these samples, it became extremely clear that even after remediation efforts done by the military, these toxins were still affecting the environment. I never went to the island because there was a problem with the tarmac, but I went to Nome and met a lot of the community members who wanted to participate in the community-based research. I also spent the summer researching legal arguments to sue the government and try to get the people affected reparations. I tried to use acts such as the Community Right to Know Act, the Clean Water Act, the Federal Tort Claims Act, and more, and looked into doctrines such as eminent domain, free, prior, and informed consent, sovereign immunity, and state-created danger, bodily integrity, stuff like that. I wrote summaries and arguments into a document and put them all in a document, which I gave to Pam at the end of the summer. Pretty early on in my research, I realized getting around sovereign immunity was going to be very difficult. And that left me feeling a little helpless. On the map, on the screen, you can see these PFAS contaminated sites, which shows like if they were due to a military base and if they contaminate water. And another part of my project was going around Anchorage sampling water for PFAS. Yeah, we found that a lot of lakes had really problematic numbers, one of which had over 17,000 times more PFAS than the EPA recommended threshold. PFAS is linked to cancer, high blood pressure, and more health problems. And these were the 2 main projects I worked on this summer. Environmental colonialism refers to the way in which a colonial practices harm and change an ecosystem. This can be exposing population to disease, invasive species, a new economic system, or the extraction of natural resources. The United States military has made it so these 3 villages can no longer hunt, drink the water, or breathe the air without increasing their likelihood of cancer or other health effects. The military, through environmental contamination, is not only hurting the people physically, but also erasing a vital part of Sivukok culture. These maps show how many formally used defense sites there are in the U.S. and how harmful they are to our health, just to put it in perspective of the entire country, and as you can see, there's a lot. What did I learn working on this project? I don't have enough time to go into everything I learned, but the 2 main concepts are the lack of power the UN has over the United States and just how powerful the United States actually is. Another part of my project was filing a report to the UN Rapporteur on human rights and toxins, and in doing that, I did a lot of research on the power of the UN. Ultimately, I found that there's not much the UN can do without actually having the power to put economic or other kind of penalties on the United States in this case. They can help us build a strong case using the United States law, but international law has little power and impact on this specific situation. I also learned how powerful the United States military is and sovereign immunity and how hard it is to get around. It's extremely hard, which was the most frustrating part of my summer projects. ACAT is building more scientific evidence along with legal research for the case. So hopefully that will result in reparations for the community as well as more cleaning to be done. The complaint form I started to the UN will hopefully result in the UN conducting their own report on the case. Yeah. And thank you. Ultimately, I had a wonderful summer.